In a major development today, Australian WikiLeaks founder Julien Assange has walked free from a British prison after striking a plea deal over US criminal charges. These are the first pictures of Assange as a free man after being granted immediate bail. The 52-year-old can be seen boarding a flight out of the UK. He'd been facing espionage charges for leaking thousands of classified US defence documents related to the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. He spent the last 5 years behind bars fighting extradition, and prior to that spent 7 years in refuge in Ecuador's embassy in London. A letter from the US Justice Department indicates he will return to Australia, possibly as soon as this week. The news has been welcomed by both sides of Australian politics. Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce spoke a short time ago.
It puts us in an incredibly good position. Nobody, because we've gone through this issue over so many years, wants to put a fly in the ointment. There were so many people who were part of this process, and what it showed that people from both sides of politics, maybe for different reasons, but they arrived at the same place. It was not really an issue about Mr. Assange. If you asked me, do I think what he did was morally correct? No, it wasn't. But the issue for me is extraterritoriality. This was an Australian citizen. He was not a citizen of the United States. He was not in the United States when this felony, as what they said, was created. He did not steal the information. That was then Bradley Manning, who is now Chelsea Manning. He was not the first person to publish this information. We just got to be still cautious on how this proceeds, because the end has not arrived.
Julien's wife Stella is celebrating her husband's release. Writing on social media platform X, "Julien is free. Words cannot express our immense gratitude to you. Yes, you, who have all mobilised for years and years to make this come true. Thank you, thank you, thank you." National Affairs Editor Hugh Riminton joins us in the studio now. Hugh, great to have you at the desk. Now, what is the process for him on his way to freedom?
Absolutely. Well, we saw him there climbing on board a plane. That's a private jet. It's a charter jet. It is heading into Bangkok. But from Bangkok, it then takes this strange trip away to the Northern Mariana Islands. Why there? Well, you've got to remember that what he's been doing for the last 5 years while he sat in Belmarsh Prison in the UK, known as Hellmarsh Prison, he's been fighting extradition to the United States, because the fear was if he was taken to the United States, he'd be hit with all kinds of espionage and other charges and would never be seen again. His fight was against going to the United States. In this plea deal that he's done, I've got the court documents in my hand, he's agreed to plead guilty to a single count. That count is conspiracy to obtain and disclose national defence information, a relatively low-grade felony charge, but it says that he must make his appearance before the United States District Court for the Northern Mariana Islands, a tiny smattering of islands there, but it means that he doesn't go on to the continental United States. There's obviously been a lot of negotiation about where he goes, but he's got to go. It is a US territory, so he's got to go to a US territory in order to plead guilty, but he's obviously negotiated somewhere in there. It's not onto continental United States. Once that's done, he'll get time served and he'll be free to come home.
After so many years, what's changed? Why now?
Well, I think what we've seen there, and we saw that from Stella Assange and her message out there, this has taken years and years and years. It's a build-up of pressure. The protests on the street of the UK. It's also been political pressure that we've seen on both sides of Parliament. Since the Labour government got in 2022, Anthony Albanese has taken up this cause. Increasingly in recent times, he's been supported, as you saw there, by Barnaby Joyce and by others, including Peter Dutton, who came round to the message that enough time had passed and it was time to let him go. There was a message put out today, a statement by Julien Assange's mother, who has said this is a victory for quiet diplomacy. So it's really been a combination of on-the-street activity and the quiet diplomacy. And under Joe Biden's White House, they've decided that the enough is enough argument holds water.
What does the future hold for him once he's back in Australia?
Now, this is an enormous question, because are there any deals attached to his release? Are there any understandings that he has made, for example, we don't know yet, that he will not resume the activities that got him into trouble in the first place? Will he still be active with WikiLeaks? Will he still be a conduit for top-secret information to be released to the public through WikiLeaks? Or will he say, look, enough is enough for him too. He's 52 years old. He's 53 next week. You know, he's got a family. He's got a wife that he's only seen through prison bars basically for years now. Does he get on with his life? There are people in the intelligence community, I've been speaking to them today in Australia, who are not best pleased that he's been released, who still basically think that what he did was wrong. We heard from Barnaby Joyce. Did he say it was morally right? Barnaby Joyce doesn't think it is. So there are people in the intelligence community will be wanting to see whether any lessons have been learned, you know, but there's a lot of moral argument all around that.
Well, Hugh, what does Julian Assange's release tell us about the balance between what the public has a right to know and government's powers to control information?
Look, it goes absolutely to the central question here, really, is plainly the power remains with the people who keep secrets compared to the people who expose secrets. He is now a convicted felon. He has lost years of his life. The people, for example, in the video which he released through WikiLeaks, which shows what many people see as a murder by helicopter gunship in a mass murder, helicopter gunship in Baghdad. At the very least, you'd have to say it was reckless in the way that it killed a whole bunch of people, including 2 workers for the Reuters Bureau, journalist workers for the Reuters Bureau in Baghdad. None of them have ever gone to jail. None of them have faced charges. The people who covered that up never faced any charges. The person who exposed it is getting freedom, but it's taken a very long time.
Good point to make. Thank you very much, Hugh.
Thank you, Norman.
And we'll have all the latest developments on Julian Assange's release in your local 10 News First at 5 and again at 10 News First afternoon at 3:30.